Nerd Bites, coming back at you. I'm Justin, as always. With me is my good friend, John.
Hey, man. How's it going?
So if you are listening via the podcasting, thank you. If you are tuning into our YouTube channel, real excited to have a really awesome in-person video again. Nerd Bites, just to remind you, is our new platform where we taste and drink things that we really like.
Yeah.
And now
seems to be working out well.
It does. In fact, we almost do this more often than the other episodes, yeah?
I think it's a good mix right now. It's a good 50-50.
Well, now that we can actually show you video, I think this is going to really add a lot to it. So, speaking of which, we have a pretty awesome video to bring to you today, an amazing guest. So, say hello to Brian.
Hello.
Brian is the GM of Dogwood Liquor here in St. Louis. First of all, you mind telling us a little about yourself?
Sure.
The typical interview question.
Yeah, my name's Brian Bauer. I am general manager at Dogwood Wine and Spirits Superstore, I think is what we're calling it now. It's pretty super. But I've only recently joined Dogwood. Prior to that, I was director of wine education for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. And as I like to tell people, I've got a lot of letters behind my name that just say, like Tyrion Lannister, I drink and I know things. In 2012, I received my CWE, the Certified Wine Educator. That's an exam with an 11% pass rate. I took it on accident, kind of. I hadn't planned on taking it, but a couple of friends of mine talked me into taking it, and ended up winning something called the Banffy Award, which is for the highest score in the world for those that passed the core parts of the exam the first go. With an only 11% pass rate for the first time of people that take it, I'm assuming it was a very low bar that year. But I did pass that. Also, certified specialist of spirits, things like that. And then just a couple years ago, I also there's the study guide.
This is the study guide for that.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So we're going to study.
Yeah.
And we'll not take the test.
Right. Well, that's all right. We can arrange the test. We can do some practice exams if you like. And then just a couple of years ago, I took the WSET, which is Wine and Spirits Education Trust. They're a London-based organization. They're level 3 in spirits. I was part of a beta group taking that in the U.S. They had only done it one other time, and I passed that with merit, which was an intensive week-long examination period where we started with tasting and studying 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday, and then took the exam at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. And there were distillers in there. There were people from all over the world. There was a cachaça producer. There was a pisco producer there. And then the Beverage Testing Institute. I sat right next to one of the women who's a taster for them, and we all took the exam together. And I guess about 25% of the people in that passed the exam, because that one was intense. I'd been teaching about spirits and drinking spirits, certainly drinking spirits for a long, long time, and walked in with a little sachet or a little bit of cock and balls in my step, right? And within 5 minutes, we were talking about protein nets and enzymatic hydrolysis, and I had never felt dumber in my life. So I had to hunker down and really study the chemistry of it, which was fascinating to me. And it was taught in a very, very good way. And we drank about 400 different spirits from all over the world during that week. So, but my real passion is teaching. I love to teach people about stuff and kind of try and ignite passion in them. It's proven that the more you know about something, the more you like it, and the more you like it, the easier it is to sell. So I trying to get the staff up to speed to where they are educated on everything in the store, and really trying to learn myself more about bourbon, because as I had been out of the retail game for 20 years, bourbon went and found itself in a real hurry. So
right.
And certainly within the past couple of years, and I think even the past year, we really saw some amazing growth in bourbon, primarily due to, at least it's my theory, due to coronavirus. And it's a shared experience that you don't have to be together in order to share.
Right.
And I think that's what makes bourbon or whiskey tasting the general boom in all of the whiskey stuff over the past year and a half, is that you can have a shared experience without having to share air.
Yeah, well, the amount of like social media groups that have popped up and just like the virtual tastings, you could pick up a a pack of however many different samples of bourbon and sit at home on your Zoom and enjoy it with people around the world, basically.
Absolutely, because it's the same thing. As long as you've got the same batch on a single barrel or something like that, it's you're drinking the same stuff.
Yeah.
Different than wine in a sense, because you can do that with wine as well. Although there's a certain amount of bottle variance in wine, more so than you would get in spirits and bourbon, and you can have a lot more instances of cork taint and just bottle variation in wine. So spirits seem to have taken the world by storm.
Yeah, I think it's just absolutely fascinating. Number one, just I don't call it a fad, trend, whatever it is, just the bourbon craze. But then just kind of stepping back and learning more about it. I know Lambert and I learned a lot about this in the last 12 to 18 months, right?
Yeah, about the last year, yeah.
How much, of course there's chemistry and science that goes into it, but just from one barrel to the next or one bottle to the next. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more. And maybe for me, you kind of went through this pretty quick because you're underplaying it or downplaying it, how impressive it is, all the certifications you have, number one. And number two, like the process at which you have to go through to do this. You mentioned you would taste upwards of 400 different samples in the course of a couple days. How do you walk upright out of the room after that's over with?
Well, you don't really start swallowing until the afternoon.
Okay,
that's
right.
always a good pro tip. You have a cup that you spit in. You're still ingesting a little bit, but it's just as far as listening to yourself. It's the same way you can go out and have a drink and know, yep, I should not be getting behind the wheel of a car, or yep, I drank my drink and I'm good to go. But fortunately, I was walking in Chicago when I took the exam. But it's really a matter of tasting critically, and certainly on spirits, I would do a lot of watering down. Your palate gets just abused by the alcohol and the acids and the oils and everything else that's in there. All of these things, certainly in a very technical sense, could be poison, and they are affecting your body in different ways and your palate in different ways, which is relatively sensitive. And so whenever I would taste, I would always taste full strength first, spit that out, and then I would water it down to a relatively, maybe half and half water and half spirit, depending on what it was, in order to, there's a few things that happen there. It breaks up the fusel oils that are rising to the surface and allows you to actually smell the esters or those fatty acids that are attached to an alcohol molecule that come across as fruity aromas. It allows you to smell those a little bit more, but it also brings out some of the subtleties. Some things alcohol will mask a lot of flavors if you allow it to. And so hence ice cubes in our drinks. It makes it more palatable the longer it sits there. Now, to some, it may be getting to the point where it's just watery, and I don't like that. But that's where you can taste some of the subtleness. I like using just water because the ice cools it down, and temperature can also mask flavor. So just using regular old water out of a bottle and just a little bit to water it down would allow me to taste everything. Then I can spit it out. We would also take breaks. We would have palate cleansers. We would, go and rinse our mouths out with coffee, essentially. Your nose also gets saturated whenever you're tasting that amount of stuff. And so there are little tricks that you learn over time whenever your nose, because your olfactory epithelium connects your sinuses down to your taste buds and allows you to essentially taste through your nose. And that can all get saturated with all of these different aromas. And so you can smell your arm. If you ever find that, I can't smell anything, it feels like I'm not smelling anything, you're used to your own scent, and you just take a big whiff of your arm, and it may kind of smell like soap, but you don't really smell your soap unless you're changing brands or something, right? You're just smelling you, and that kind of resets your olfactory senses so that you can then move on to the next one. And these are things where if you go to a trade show and you're going from booth to booth to booth to booth to booth and tasting, at some point it's just like you order your Uber and you know the night is over, or get a hotel room in the hotel where the tasting is. But but for the most part, if you're tasting clinically and tasting, trying to make sure, one, I'm going to make the right buying decision for the store. Two, I'm going to make the right buying decision based on the price. Some things can taste great, and then if they're $600 a bottle, all of a sudden they're not as good. So you have to kind of stay alert, and that's just part of the professionalism that I learned doing this for so long. Is that, yep, spit it out until you don't have to.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, so if you see us smelling our arms a lot today, that's
right.
Maybe that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
One last question really about this whole, just getting these certifications and going through the whole process and having so many different tastes throughout the course of the day. Do they scale it up based on proof? Is there any type of thought? I mean, I know that we've done our own little tastings. It's by no means anywhere near sophisticated as you guys do. But we always say, let's start with low proof and work our way up to the high proof. That way we
always
don't
work our way up.
Yeah.
Because if you start with the high proof, you're torching your palate right off the bat.
I would agree with that. I would think that's certainly a good way to look at it. I would also kind of look at body, the way and the weight of the spirit in your mouth. The heavier ones will coat your mouth. Something that's going to be oilier, right, is going to coat your palate. And so you'll either need to rinse your palate out, right? Take a big swig of water, rinse it out for a while, and spit, and do that a few times just to kind of clean all of that off. Or you build up in body as well. So
okay.
Sweetness would be another thing to finish with. So sweetness is going to increase the viscosity of any spirit that it's in. We were doing liqueurs today, for instance, I would start with a drier liqueur and work our way up to a sweeter liqueur, which sounds weird because liqueurs are sweet by definition, but I would go from the driest ones or the driest tasting ones and work my way up to the sweetest ones.
Same with wine?
Same with wine, absolutely, yeah. And some people, Europeans especially, like to taste their red wines first because of the amount of acid, so they like to go from a little bit lower acid to the higher acid, because acid, much like alcohol, will abuse your palate and make it kind of hard to taste. All of a sudden you've got little bumps on the sides of your tongue from drinking these highly acidic wines, and you're not able to taste anything else. It basically makes your tongue swollen a little bit. So I kind of like the European way of tasting the red wines and then moving on to the white wines, because the acid, essentially. Okay. So, but yeah, it really depends on preferences and actually what's in front of us at the time, for what I would recommend on how to taste.
Got one more question, then we're going to get into tasting some stuff ourselves.
Yep.
So you guys at Dogwood, and a big thing I think that's happened in the last couple of years has been the store selects, the store picks, right? The barrel picks, whatever you want to call it. We just were able to have an awesome Dogwood barrel pick for the private select makers. And fantastic. But I'm curious, for those of people who don't know, what's the process like, kind of both in two different ways? What's the process like in town? And then what's the process like if you actually get to travel to the distillery?
Well, certainly the latter is the better.
Right.
That is certainly more fun as long as you can find your designated driver to take you down.
They do you up right. I mean, they take care of you.
They do, yeah. And that one is also better in the sense of, well, let me explain how it happens in the store, and certainly during COVID, how the barrel picks have been happening. Is the manufacturer will ship up anywhere between 3 and 14 different barrel samples that we would be able to taste through.
14 is a lot.
14 is a lot, especially at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
But nap time should be built into every retailer's schedule.
An early release day, I think.
Yeah. But so most of the time it's about 3 samples that they'll send up, and we taste through all of those. Now, the reason I like store picks so much is because we get to use our palates. There's no shortage of whiskey out there. There's just a shortage of excellent whiskey out there, I think. And maybe not. Maybe there's not a shortage of excellent whiskey. We just haven't found it all yet. However, I trust my palate, and I trust my colleague Shelby's palate, and we'll taste through these things. And I think that's what separates us. You can go to our competitors and you can buy their store picks, but the one thing they don't have is us. and the expertise of us going, yep, that's hands down the best one. And we also like to share it with customers sometimes too. Whenever they come in, if we've got barrel samples, then yeah, here, take a taste. Let us know what you think. I'm eager. You guys are the ones that buy it, so we need to make sure that we're staying true to what the customers are actually looking for. I'm very analytical when I taste. I'm trying to taste for what the customers want, and I think I do an okay job at that. I think we do a better job at that than our competitors do. So that's why we like the barrel picks so much.
I would agree. I've had many Dogwood picks.
Well, thank you.
I've had quite a few of them as well.
Yeah. Many of them on my shelf.
There's
Thank you.
plenty out there.
I'm not just saying that because your ear. Like literally,
Right.
you can go look at our shelves. And
you
lots
can,
say Dogwood.
You can look out there, yeah.
Yeah. And then going down to the distillery to choose is a much more fun event. They'll take you out to the rick house and allow you to, they'll go out there with a thief and a glass and a bottle of water, hopefully, and they'll pull it out of there and you taste everything barrel strength, and some are different. Some people won't let you bottle it barrel strength. We try to get a lot of stuff barrel strength. It's more efficient at the very least, but some people are like, nope, ours are always going to be at 110, or we're always going to bottle at 103 and things like that, which is fine. That's their take. Woodford is one that always bottles at the same proof.
I just think seeing them pull it like right out of that barrel.
Right.
Yeah, I'd want to be there for that too.
Experience just to
Yeah.
be a part of.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and there's usually a couple of there's your tour guide there as well, and they're tasting with you. If you're lucky, the master distiller is going to be there as well and can offer his or her opinions on what these actually taste like to them, and then you do the tasting, you spit it out, you move on to the next barrel, and try. And basically, because most places, Maker's Mark is still moving their barrels around in the rick house, but most places are just for any small batch blends or things they're pulling from different parts of the warehouse, and you get to go to different sections of the warehouse. So I'm a high floor guy. I really like those high floor ones. It tends to be a little warmer, and to me, that's what, one, it increases the proof and increases the complexity, I believe, of the spirit. So, but then once we choose that, they will take that barrel, they will bottle it for us. It's got to get in the queue for the bottling line. If they're going to filter it, which usually it's just a matter of racking it or allowing any sediment that's accumulated in there over the years to settle down, and getting the spirit out of there, getting it into bottles, putting our label on it, and shipping it up to us.
So let's move into what we're going to do today.
Okay.
We're going to do what's called Compare to the Rare. Before we do that, though, if you could give the audience a real quick, those of you who don't know, a little bit of background about what makes a bourbon rare. And there are a lot of different variables, right?
Yep.
So what would you consider a rare bourbon?
I would consider a rare bourbon any bourbon that everyone is trying to get right now.
It seems, I was going to say it's all driven by consumer demand.
That's really the big drive. You're right, John, is that the number of calls we get per day asking for the Buffalo or the Sazerac bourbons, right? Those that are made of Buffalo trays, is kind of astounding. I was shocked to see how it was. And the secondary market for these, the ones that are selling on the secondary market for insane amounts of money, those are the ones, because of either bottle hoarders out there. I think anybody that has more than 8 bottles of Blanton's is being greedy. So
eight's the number. I would put it like half of that.
Well,
I've got 2.
For me, it's the you're allowed to collect the letters.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Once you got the letters, then
and one to
anything
drink,
more
maybe.
than that,
yeah.
Anything more than that is gluttonous.
Yeah.
But I've seen lots of internet posts where people have pool tables full of Blantons,
right,
and that's creating a false demand for it, in my opinion. But those hard to get allocated. They're allocated now because we have to allocate them. If we just put them on the shelf, one person will come in and buy
all
everything.
of them.
Yeah, we limit it to 1 per person, but those things that we feel we have to limit. Certainly, that Sazerac collection is leading the way. Part of the reason is most of what they release is over 8 years old. They don't release much under 8 years old from Sazerac, so they would have had to have known 8 years ago what was going to happen over the past couple of years, and that makes it very difficult. Older bourbons are getting harder and harder to find because of the boom that we've seen now. So, for instance, Blue Note, we just got a couple of the last 2 9-year barrels that they had.
We love the Blue Note.
Blue Note's really good stuff.
It's good stuff.
But they're going to be out of Blue Note 9-year for 2 years because they're transitioning from sourcing the whiskey to producing their own whiskey, and their own whiskey is now 7 years old. So they are going to pause and wait until their whiskey is 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a little bit of a drought in the market.
We're going to probably cut that part. That way no one else buys the Blue Note.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Because that's what we like to keep buying and drinking. Well, and every time I go to Dogwood, I walk out with at least one more Blue Note bottle.
Right. And I remember when I was in the store, whenever I was in the store talking about the new Blue Note store picking coming, and you mentioned that, it's like, well, there's going to be a kind of a pause on the 9-year because they're going from, they're from buying it from someone else to making it themselves. And like my brain instantly goes to, I wonder how the flavor's going to change.
I do too.
Like how it's because they're I don't know who they're sourcing it from. They probably won't tell you, but you could it's probably one of 2 or 3. It's probably MGP.
Right.
And if it's not them, it's you could probably go through a couple others. But I'm curious to see how the flavor profile is going to change from what you guys have been able to pick, which have been 3 really good store picks, to what theirs is going to be in 2 years.
I'm very curious about that myself. We have a little bit of an indication because they've brought in some 3 and 4-year-old bourbons to see if we were interested in doing a store pick of that.
You did mention that, yeah.
Yeah, and when I tasted the 3-year-old, it would be very easy in this time to just say yes to every single barrel that is offered you because everybody's trying to capitalize on this right now. But I had to say no to a couple of those, and it's not because I thought they were bad whiskeys. They're just young, and they need more time, a significant amount more time. The 4-year-old rye I thought was very good, and so we ordered a barrel of that. But the 3-year-old bourbon was a little raw at this point. It takes time. It's like I bake bread as a hobby, and I've always lamented every time I tried to rush bread. You can't. You can't make sourdough any faster. It just takes that much time.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same way with whiskey. You can't rush it. You can't put it in a microwave and make it age faster. You can't use these half barrels. I'm sorry, I disagree with the half barrels. I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to that when you're using, because there is no legal rule that says you have to put it into a certain size barrel. You can put it into anything you want, and you get faster maturation, or at least an expedited version of maturation, whenever you're using a smaller barrel. It gives you more surface area, and if you do it in a warm climate like Texas, not to mention anyone by name, it's a big state, but you don't get the subtlety, you don't get the complexity, and you actually end up extracting a little bit too much of the oak. Part of the balance and part of what we've learned, certainly since Prohibition, but even pre-Prohibition, from our forefathers who were making bourbon, is that is kind of the right size barrel. The standard bourbon barrel is the right size barrel. It's that ratio of oak to juice that gives us the flavor profile that we like. You can extract too much from the oak. The green tannins are the first thing that come to mind, that as the barrel is sucking the liquid in and pushing it back out. If you've got too much exposure to that, some things like green tannins, it's tannic acid, and it's that drying thing in wine, but it also can give you kind of a dill pickly type of aroma and flavor, and be kind of astringent and harsh. And so I don't like the rushed process.
I mean, this is maybe a terrible analogy, but it's cook something in the oven or cook something in the microwave, and you're gonna have a similar outcome, but it's gonna be not the same in flavor and depth and just overall quality and consistency.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so we're gonna take a real quick break. When we come back, we're gonna compare to the rare.
Great.
Absolutely.
All right, so welcome back. Brian, tell us a little bit about this compare to the rare blind tasting, how it's going to work, and what we can expect. So
the idea for this one came from they rhyme, compare to the rare. It rhymed, and I
That's
thought
very
I
clever.
might be able to sell it. But because of all the rare whiskeys, it's frustrating to me seeing the inventory that I have on what I think to be very good to excellent whiskey that is just being ignored. And in a time where we weren't able to really do a lot of tastings and people can't put it in their mouths, right? They have no idea about this stuff, especially with all the new people that are new to whiskeys since coronavirus. They have not had the opportunity to taste all of these. And I just wanted to, not to say that a rare whiskey is going to be bad or is overhyped or anything like that. It's just, let's taste 6 different whiskeys without knowing which ones they are. We'll rank them, put them in the order that we think that they're the best. And if there's 50 people in the room, there's going to be 50 different opinions on that, I'm sure. And the idea is to say that maybe some of these should be in that same category, that you should be thinking about some of these, or maybe you don't really like the rare whiskey. You're just buying it because you were told to buy it and you were told you were going to like it. And maybe you actually like a different style of whiskey or something a little bit different. So I tried to your point earlier about proof and tasting and ascending proof, I tried to, when I put these together, do things that were of a similar proof so that one's not going to completely stand out from the rest. But it's these are in no real particular order. We have in front of us now 6 cups of whiskey with just 3/4 of an ounce in each one. That should be a sufficient amount to get a taste and things like that. I would encourage you to take notes if you want to, just to remind yourself. Now, sometimes my note-taking system is 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, right? And then I'll go back and I'll taste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste through first everything. Well, the first thing I do is I'm going to pick them up and smell them to make sure that in my head I'm tasting them in the correct order. But also at the same time, I'll be looking at what the color is, making sure there's nothing hazy in there that would indicate a flaw in the bottle. Sometimes things happen. There could be a bottle that, and usually with a spirit, if you've got some sort of haze in there, if it's not ouzo or sambuca or something like that, or a non-chill filtered scotch, it could just be a flaw. It could be something happened during the manufacturing process that made that bottle go bad. And I would recommend not drinking it. I mean, they say alcohol kills all, but good news is when I poured all of these, I looked at them all.
They all look good to me.
Everything is good. There's nothing at least visibly flawed.
Well, before we start, we're going to taste them here in 1 second, but in the past when we've sampled bourbons, we've kind of broken it down into 4 different categories. And I really, as we're going through this, if you wouldn't mind showing a much more sophisticated version on that fancy printout there, we usually go with, and I wrote down the better words, but we used to go with look, which appearance, nose, taste, which is palate, and then also finish. So basically 4 categories. We make it pretty basic, and we usually give like a 1 through 10 rating of each.
And that's not a bad way to do it. That's essentially what we're doing here. This is on the SAT level 3. They'll call it appearance because it's not just the color, but it's the look of it. Yeah, and it's the appearance of it. We're looking for anything that's cloudy or bad, right? So once we eliminate flaws, what we're looking for is intensity of color, whether it's water clear or water white, all the way to opaque and you can't see through it, and everything in between. There's water white, pale, medium, deep, and opaque. And you can see there's a variance in colors, or at least in color intensity, between some of these.
Absolutely.
Assuming that we've got the same amount. I know my number 4, we had a little accident earlier, so I poured a little into Justin's glass for him. So, but there is still a difference of intensity in all of these. But they're all somewhere between medium and deep intensity. It's the intensity of the color, right? You can still see through a neon light, kind of, right? But it's very intense at times.
Well, and I guess maybe that's something we need to rethink as far as our rankings, because this is very, very subjective, because we rank them based on what color we like the best. And I really like super auburn, darker bourbons.
Deep.
probably because I know that they're most likely going to be higher proof, and I like the
Good chance they're higher
stuff.
proof,
but it's not to say that like the lighter colors aren't also a really nice looking bourbon. It just it comes down to, like I said, subjectivity.
Well, exactly. And to use a wine analogy, you can a Pinot Noir is almost always going to be a relatively pale intensity of color. Yet some of the best wines I've ever had in my life are Pinot Noirs. You can have a Pinot Noir from Burgundy, which will be very pale, or a Pinot Noir from Santa Barbara, which will be very deep and opaque. Both can be very good wines. Are they being true to themselves is the real question that I look for in there. Some of these could be from cooler parts of the Rick House. Some of these could be that house style. And I tend to use wine words a lot because I've got a wine background, but it's that distillery style, or for that brand, what that style is. Maker's Mark is a wheated whiskey. They're not trying to be to punch you in the face with their whiskey. They want to have a very smooth finish and a very soft finish. And so a paler color in that might be acceptable. I'm not giving anything away, by the way.
No, that was actually right. That was the part that when we were kind of talking earlier, tasting the Maker's Mark, that was kind of neat to hear, is that it's not necessarily this is the best one. It's more of a, like you said, is it being true to itself? Is it tasting, giving off the aromas, the flavors that it's supposed to be giving off?
Right. And that's
based
where
on their flavor profile, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that's where the mastery of the distiller comes in. I know certainly with cognac, you've got this blend of eau de vies that are happening, and they have one master blender and then several people working for him, one covering the spice profile, one covering the sweetness profile, one covering the umami or the savory profile of the cognac. And then each one of those people have teams working for them, and they're going out to the warehouse and pulling these different samples from barrels that are meeting the directions that they've been given. They take that back to their boss. He blends them together, takes it to his boss, or she takes it to their boss, and then the master blender puts everything together. Similar situation as the master distiller is going out, and he's choosing a lot of different children based on his assumption that they're going to play well with each other. And he wants to, the idea with any small batch or anything that's not a single barrel is that we want this to taste like, if we're saying just regular Buffalo Trace, right? We want Buffalo Trace to taste exactly the same today as it did 10 years ago, and we want it to taste 10 years from now exactly the same as it did today. And that is, to me, the hardest thing. A single barrel is going to be the expression of that barrel. It's going to be, maybe there were a couple of really hot years in there. Maybe there were a couple of rainy, cool years in there during the warmer months, and they didn't get as intense. But that is what that barrel is going to give you, what it gives you.
You don't have to do anything to it. You just bottle it.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is.
Get the chunks out. And put it in a bottle. So, anyway, that I'm a big proponent of. I don't know if you can tell the quality of something by its appearance. You can get indications to it, other than whether or not it's flawed. But other than that, it's just the color is what the color is, and the intensity of the color is what the color is. And if you think of scotches, if you're looking at, because you can add caramel coloring to scotch, right? It's got letters and then the number 5 after it, right? I can't remember the chemical name for it, but it's just essentially burnt sugar that they're adding, and it's legal to add for color consistency. But you can't do that in bourbon. You're not allowed to do that. So it is just an expression of what it is. So
having said that, I'm going to rank mine though.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Are we allowed to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rank.
I'm going to rank. I'm writing it down because I'm going to forget stuff.
I'm gonna take your pen whenever you're done.
Way to be prepared.
Hey, sorry. Hey, look, there's a pen. I got a pen.
Don't look at my numbers.
Don't look at mine. No, you're right.
Oh, you know what? No, I got to switch this up. This is not the accurate number. I wrote down the wrong one.
You messed it up already.
Go. You got a pen already? Okay.
I got a pen. I'm good.
So appearance first.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing those, right?
Yep. And now when nosing a spirit, it's really tempting, especially if you have any kind of wine background, to get the honker down in there and do a line of wine. But you can't. You're only going to get alcohol if you get down in there. It takes a little bit, and so I always will give it a swirl, and then just move it in slow. And what we're looking for on the nose, especially too, is there anything that's flawed in there? Does it smell like tails, like something sour, cheese or sweat or something like that? Once we're past that, once we're realizing that, okay, it's a clean spirit, I'm looking at, can I smell anything at all? Is it neutral? All right. The legal definition of vodka is odorless, flavorless, colorless, essentially. So it should be relatively neutral. But then the intensity of that aroma, if I'm not smelling anything, compared to I get a very light aroma, medium, or pronounced aroma. And the way that I can do that is just kind of be sniffing as I bring the spirit to my nose. And where do I start to notice it? Not just do I notice that there's something in the glass, but I can actually pick up an aroma. So I just grabbed whiskey number 3 because I'm right-handed, and excuse me, move it towards my nose. I'm pretty far away, and I'm picking up some aromas here that I can discern. So I would probably give that a medium plus to a pronounced aroma intensity.
Yeah, so normally you're not ranking them, you are judging them based on a scale.
Yeah.
And then maybe and usually when you're doing this, you're not actually comparing bourbons. And for our case, we are, but...
We are, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to assess each one on its own,
right. And
I'm trying to give a quality ranking in my head to what each one of those is. And so I'll use one as, for an example, it can be poor, it can be acceptable, it can be good, it can be very good, it can be outstanding. That's the terminology of the WSET. If you ever want to take the exam, you have to use their terminology, so they kind of beat it into your head for a week. And so I try and remind myself of the terminology. So if I ever have to take another exam.
I already smelled my arm a minute ago, yeah.
Right.
I have to. I'm like,
I got to ask too. So
I'm not picking up shit.
I've read that I've been told also that when you do smell these, it's good to keep your mouth open, so you're not getting a giant tinge of...
Some people really like that.
Okay.
So it kind of flows through.
Yeah. It's that part is to each their own.
Okay.
Right? What may work for you on that may not work for me. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do it. I think if you're having trouble smelling spirits, then try it with your mouth open, try it with your mouth closed. Try taking an allergy pill. So
yeah, there are a lot of other variables.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables.
Maybe I shouldn't have mowed the lawn this morning.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing. But that can always be a factor. Certainly, cologne. You always want to have, if you're going to be tasting clinically or academically, you definitely don't want to be wearing cologne. Let's leave the Drakkar Noir with the jean jacket and the T-tops. But let's just... Yeah.
All right. I think I got my scent rankings here.
Okay.
I don't.
Another thing you want to smell for whenever you're nosing the spirit is the aroma characteristics, and basically based on, we know that these are all made from a raw material, essentially the same raw materials, and can I smell aromas from those raw materials? For instance, we're mostly corn today. And so aromas, not just am I smelling corn, am I smelling aromas that can be produced by a sweet product like corn. So butterscotch, burnt sugar, things like that.
Yeah, I almost kind of ranked mine based on how strong was the sugary corn smell, and how long did it take to get to me.
Right. Excuse me.
Okay. All right. So after we do nose...
After we do the nose, then we go on to the palate, the fun part. We get to taste.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that you're looking for right off the bat is sweetness. Is it sweet? Most people taste sweetness on the tip of your tongue. Think of if you're going to try honey, what do? You stick your finger in the honey and you stick it right on the tip of your tongue. If it's not a liqueur, chances are it's not going to be terribly sweet unless it's a flavored vodka, and don't get me started on that one. Because most flavored vodkas, there's enough sugar in a lot of flavored vodkas to where they could be ranked as liqueur, The only reason they're not is there's a little thing in the law that says if you make a pure vodka, you don't necessarily have to follow the rules of vodka in order to call it a vodka.
Oh, it has nothing to do with the proof.
No. Well, there's a proof thing too.
Okay.
You're right. Flavored vodka can go down to 30 proof.
Yeah.
But even at 30 proof, you're talking about sugar weight, gravity weight of sugar, and you can have up to 35 grams. But I think it's something like 5 grams can put you into liqueur category, which is
just makes me
quite a
think.
bit.
I was gonna say, it just makes me think of like all the times we used to do flavored vodka and Red Bull. Like the amount of sugar.
Oh,
Cherry bombs.
The
man.
fact that we weren't diabetic at 21 is actually quite like astounding.
yeah, give it time.
Right.
Considering our bodies read this as sugar, so
Yeah.
it's essentially the same. But so sweetness is that. How intense are the flavors? Are you able to taste a lot of different flavors really intensely? How does it feel, the mouth feel in your mouth? In wine, we would call it body, but what's the mouth feel like? Is it oily? Certainly, fusel oils are a part of this, and they can give you a real mouth coating feel, or does it have almost an astringent quality where it kind of dries out right away? Is it rough? Is it mouth filling? Is it warming? Certainly, the Kentucky Hug is something you want to pay attention to. That'll be an indication of alcohol content. How fast does that form, and how deeply down does it go? And then, can you taste the raw materials? Again, those same aromas and flavors are pretty much the same. And then the finish. What we're doing, I keep the finish in the palate, but it's how long are you tasting the pleasant flavors of the product after the product is out of your mouth? So after you've either spit or swallowed it, how long are you tasting those pleasant flavors? Anything over a minute to a minute 15 is going to be that's a pretty long finish. I think we've all had some whiskeys that 2 minutes later you're sitting there going, man, I'm still tasting that. Still delicious. So
and not just burning, like you can actually taste the flavor to it.
absolutely, yeah. So, and all of that will be an indication of quality as well. And then just to make your conclusion on it, or when I make my conclusion, I'm looking for, I like to say pick blick, which I'm a big fan of the movie Election, Reese Witherspoon.
Sure.
Yeah, so she always said pick flick, but I made a little slide when I was teaching classes for pick blick, and it's a balance, length, intensity, and complexity. With balance, I work backwards. I go, is it out of balance? Is there something weird here? Is there something pushing this spirit out of balance? Is it just alcohol, or am I only getting sweetness and nothing else? When I I love gin as well. So if I taste gin, Gordon's gin to me is fine, but it's all juniper and that's it. You can't really taste any lemon peel, no cardamom, no any of these other botanicals that could be in there. It's just straight up juniper.
Would you consider something out of balance so maybe it's the nose is just kind of the palate is but then the finish is amazing, where it's not hitting all the senses, but like one aspect of it is really good and kind of is just better than the others? Is that
I could certainly see my way to convincing myself that is out of balance.
Okay, because like you were talking about out of balance, more of like a flavor. It's like it's too much sweet, or it's too much oak, and it's not enough sweet, or it's that. But then, like for me, because I'm still learning how to pick those individual flavors out of it. I think it's like, wow, the finish on this is amazing, but everything else about it is just kind of meh.
Right.
So that to me is out of balance.
And certain things can be. You may have had some that, whoa, you smell it and you go, this is going to be great, and then you taste it and it's
just like, oh man,
just stops.
Or it smells like one thing and then you taste it and the flavor profile is completely different from the nose.
Yeah, and with spirits, that's definitely a true statement. That's a really great observation. With wine, it would be a little bit different because wine progresses as it's in the glass a little bit more than spirits do. But yeah, I would say definitely one of those components. If the nose is super intense and you taste it and it's water, that's not going to be any good. So yeah, that would definitely throw it out of balance. So and then the length and the intensity of the flavors and aromas, and then the complexity. How many am I tasting? Now and we talked about this before, there's your recognition threshold, and then there's an identification threshold. And a recognition threshold would be along the lines of, I know I'm tasting something. I find this to be pleasant, but I can't tell you what it is.
It's sweet.
Right.
It's oaky.
Yeah.
It's spicy.
And then we have to think, so if you are getting oak, and this is where it's just experience too. If you're getting oak, stop thinking of the term oak. Start thinking of what flavors am I going to get from oak. The most common aromas and flavors you get from oak are going to be baking spices. Vanilla being a very predominant one. Cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, mace, all in different quantities. Those are going to be the aromas and flavors that oak imparts to the spirit.
Okay.
Oxygen can give other things. The corn can give other things, right? But it's really those spices for oaky. So I tell people about this with wine all the time. It's, okay, you can say that it's an oaky wine, but I would prefer if you said that it's a wine that I know has been aged in oak. Now what are the aromas and flavors that I'm tasting?
Right.
Start with vanilla and you're never going to go wrong.
Vanilla.
Yeah,
Caramel.
there you go. So, and you guys are working through these pretty quick, right? Well, I'm
I'm kind of zigzag.
I'm zigzagging too. So I've got to come down to my last two rankings here. After the palate, then is finish is a good number? Do you think that kind of goes along with palate?
Mm-hmm. I think finish is kind of in the palate, and then we just look for the quality ranking. And that's where I do the whole Blick scale. Mm-hmm. And so if I were looking at, let's say, whiskey number one, since that's a good place to start, I think it's balanced. I don't think there's anything out of balance here. I thought the length of it was pretty good, so I'd probably give it a check for length. The intensity was a little low. I don't know that I would give it the check mark for intensity. It was kind of soft, and then complexity. I'm kind of on the fence. I might give it. I could be talked into it by myself.
Right. And if you had that one second, maybe you would be talked into it differently.
Correct.
Just by being here, like
just pure saturation of palate.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yep. So I would call that a good to very good.
Yeah.
So
when we're done with this,
mm-hmm.
do you want us to give you a ranking of our favorite?
The idea
is
is
favorite.
Yep, you tell me.
Or for the sake of this test, should we tell you if we would call it good, but maybe not our favorites?
I don't know that we need to go into that because
that whole thing.
I think we just rank them.
I think you just rank them.
Hold that up. Like, look. Yeah. I mean, hold this up to the camera. Like, it's front and back.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Of everything you can go into in depth as far
nose, palate, conclusions,
and on the back is
raw materials.
The describing of the aromas and flavors and it goes into like raw materials, but then how it's processed, the oak and maturation, and then, like you said, the texture.
Yeah, for this exercise today, this may be a little intense, mm-hmm. but that's just an overview of kind of what I'm going through. The more you practice it, the easier it gets, and so I can go through this entire thing. Let's see, by the time when I was teaching students on wine, I would give them, we would do speed rounds where it'd be like, okay, you got 30 seconds, go.
See, this is where we're striving for, Hildebrand.
Right.
This is where we're going.
That's next.
This is the
end.
There.
Yeah.
This is the end goal.
We're getting there.
The first time you do it, it'd take you 20 minutes for each spirit. So you're going to need more sponsors.
Right? Yeah, we're going to go broke.
So,
what are you thinking? How's the tasting going along? How's your ranking coming along?
It's coming. So I'm trying to. So I did. I ranked appearance like 1 through 6.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of giving. Well, Brian was mentioned. I don't even know if you mentioned this here. If you were doing it, like when we were tasting the other stuff before, like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star.
Yeah.
So that's kind of. So I just have. I'm not doing stars. I'm doing lines. So it's 1, 2, or 3 as far as like do I really like the nose? Is the nose just kind of meh, or is it like no, I don't like it? Then it's a 1.
and then you go back and
so I'm kind of doing
whichever
that.
ones are tied, retaste them.
Yep.
And
So I did it on the nose on all of them. Now I'm going and tasting them and doing the palate and the finish on all of them now.
Okay.
So that's my process.
Well, I'm ready. I think I got my rankings already.
Of course you're ready.
But I'm a fast worker. I know what I like. No, I do think though this is hardest, and the hardest part I think, and maybe just for time's sake, has been like the finish. And for my brain, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, is it one that I really like the flavors, or is it like, I think because we've done this a few times, it's more of a, am I calling it a good bourbon I'd like to keep drinking, or when I'm drinking these, it's really funny because I'm like, oh, I don't like that, but I guarantee you I have probably all these bottles on my shelf that
Or you've had all of these.
I've had all of these,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, you've had all of them.
So anyway, that's just my inner turmoil right now, where it's like, oh, I don't like that. I'm like, actually, it's not a bad bourbon. It's just if I'm comparing it to these other ones, I don't know. It's tough, and the finish is hard too because it would literally take us sitting here.
You want to give it time.
But at the same time, I'm ready to I've already tasted the flavor to that. I want to move on to the next one. And
It's not like you can try it and be like, okay, that one's done, and then try some water. It's like, no, you gotta give it a little bit and see how long it lasts, and see if you can see how long you can taste it before you can move on to the next.
Well, now Brian, you're adding a little water to open them up a little bit, maybe taste some extra flavors.
Yeah. Was there anyone that you eliminated? That you're like, okay, that's definitely my least favorite. Is that an easier way to approach it?
Yeah,
it is for me.
Yeah.
Do you want us to share?
Yeah.
Are we getting close to the conclusion?
If you two guys are ready, you can certainly share.
We're getting close. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go. I'll just give some thoughts. So for me personally, I'm a high proof person. I like the hot. I like the heat. And those don't always go hand in hand. It doesn't necessarily have to be high proof. I like spiciness. I'm a spicy kind of bourbon kind of guy, I guess. Especially on the initial taste. I like to kind of really get it up front.
I like a lot of rye.
I do like a lot of rye. Okay. Yeah. I do not like Scotch.
Okay.
And let me rephrase that. I do not like anything that is not from the Highlands. So anything that is peaty or oaky in any way, I eat it immediately. I'm like, I just can't.
Right.
It's tough for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I recognize they're good, but I struggle with it.
I guess we're not allowed to say, but Scotch has been described ever since I started learning about it as masculine and feminine. And there are masculine styled Scotches and feminine styled Scotches. The Glenmorangies of the world are going to be more feminine style because they don't have the peat.
And those are the ones I really like.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Lagavulins of the world are those that are going to have heavy peat, medicinal, right? Really
I feel like someone's slapping me in the face with a piece of oak.
And they really are.
And it is rough.
Well, it's the peat, really. It's just
peat,
decomposed vegetative matter.
Yeah.
And since you don't have many trees in Scotland,
give me a Speyside every day of the week and twice on Sundays. That is my Scotch. It's a Speyside. It's a sweeter one. It's a little fruitier.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want.
I just got my friend who for his birthday at Glenfiddich 18. And I know that that's a really good Scotch, but for me, I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It was nice to have one, but one was enough.
And I had a bottle of Glen 12, and Orf, shout out to Orf, huge fan of Glenfiddich. He's got them all. Like, there's only a couple that he doesn't have, and that's just because they're impossible to find, and he's just not willing to spend the money that you'd have to spend on some of those rarer versions of Glenfiddich. And I had a 12, and he got a 12 because they were on sale. And I bought one. I was like, well, he likes it. I'll give it a shot. I couldn't even finish one drink. And then I gave him the rest of the bottle. I just did not.
Two for one.
Did you try adding water?
I did not try adding water because I was like, this is disgusting.
I had it with ice.
With ice. Okay. Yeah, because
which made it tolerable for me.
In Scotland, they'll serve it with a wee dram of water. And everybody adds water to their own taste. And so that can help. I also think for those peatier Scotches, and I'm not a big fan of them. I certainly am not Nick Offerman, who can do the Yule log and sit down.
No, thank you.
Even though I play that every Christmas and leave it on all the time. Yeah. But the only time I've ever had it where it really knocked my socks off was at a Scotch dinner at Five Bistro, what used to be Five. Now it's J. Devotee Trattoria on the Hill. and he had a Scotch dinner where the Scotch was the final ingredient, and it was served with a cold smoked salmon that he had made, and then you take a drink of Lagavulin. It was Lagavulin 16, straight up Lagavulin, and it was phenomenal. It finished. There was a really subtle smoke on the fish, and then you take a drink of the Scotch, and that seaweedy, smoky quality just melded with the salmon, and it was absolutely unbelievable. So
I could probably get behind that.
Yeah.
But in any other case, I'm
but
not
just
drinking
sipping
the
it by
whole-
myself.
Well, I
mean, making a whole thing of it, I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say he's got one of the best palates around. I just couldn't believe that he had actually used the Scotch as the last ingredient in his dish, and every single dish was like that. It was pretty fascinating.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's
I would never. I'm not that creative. I could never do something like that.
I can't do it I can't combine it with. I can pair food and wine all day long. There's some basic rules to that. Too many flavors and spirits. So.
All right, let's
All right.
get to the fine. Let's figure out what our results are here.
Let's
Are
rank
you ready?
'em. Rank them.
Okay. You go first, my friend.
Are we going?
Let's go least to favorite.
All right.
Yeah.
So my least was number 2.
Mine as well.
Just,
Mine too.
I mean, just like
Yours too. Have you done this by the way?
I'm doing it right
You're
now.
doing it right now. Okay.
Yeah.
okay, he's doing it right now. Just the flavor, nothing. Like, took a sip of it and just didn't get anything. The finish was a little bit better, but like
Yeah.
the initial flavor, like the palate on it was just almost non-existent. Like it just didn't. I didn't get anything.
I would agree. I echo those exact sentiments. Okay, I'll go next. My second least favorite was number 4, and I think it's because and maybe I'm just psychosomatic, whatever it is. I taste the oak, and it just seems a little bit oak forward for me.
It's interesting. So my next least favorite was number 3.
Okay, and just cause.
Just cause. Like I mean, I hate to say it, like I disliked it less than number 2.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Right. I got. I'm kind of with you, Justin, on the number 4. That it's the oak is out of whack, out of balance. It just didn't feel integrated to me.
Yeah.
I noticed that especially after adding the water.
Okay.
Really? Yeah, it was like the third time around. I'm like, there was a lot of it's just coming at you in weird ways, and I don't like the oak.
I liked it.
All right, so
Yeah.
number 4 for you, Lambert. You go next.
Number 4 for me was number 6.
Number 6. Okay, mine was number 1, and because I kind of the similar reason why you didn't like number 2 the most is there didn't really feel like there was a lot going on there, especially from the finishing perspective. But again, I'm looking at your numbers. Looks like we've got some differing opinions.
Yeah,
That's okay.
We have some different opinions, but that's okay. That's the whole point of this.
Brian, what was yours? Number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3.
It felt hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 seemed really, really hot to me. Like
Okay.
more than what it should be.
Right. Uncharacteristically hot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that's the bottom 3, top 3. Number 3, I'll go. Number 3 for me was number 3. And I think
3
it's
for number
because
3.
I had a little bit of that heat, but it wasn't enough for me.
That's okay. That's okay. So number 3 for me was number 5.
Yeah, similar thing. Yeah, number 3 is a little spicy. It's more cinnamony. Yeah. You said number 5
Mm-hmm.
is your number 3. Okay.
I was number 1.
Number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're all over the place.
I thought it was pretty good, but
We are all over the place.
I thought it had
like
some
it.
potential, but it fell off a little bit. The finish started good, felt good in the palate. Finish just dove off the cliff. Right. It didn't stay with you.
Yeah. So my top 3,
I think that one.
I
I would say number 1 too. That one maybe had like a really one of the better fruity flavors. It seemed. Like
Yeah,
it's got a nice delicate taste.
I enjoyed it up to the
but then,
finish.
boom, you're done.
Yeah, and again, it's not a bad thing. It's what that Scotch is, I think, or Scotch, what that bourbon is. But it's, by the way, these are all straight bourbons.
Okay.
Okay, number 2.
Number
Lambert.
2. Number 2.
Your second favorite is number
4.
Number 4. You like the oakiness a little bit.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, and there's that one. Is it the Shelby pick of the? What's the Shelby pick that?
Of the
Blue
Rebel
Note.
or
The Rebel.
okay.
That has a little bit of extra oakiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you and Pat especially are big fans of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for me, my number 2 was whiskey number 5, and I don't know. It just had a lot to it, and it definitely had in my opinion, a pretty good long finish to it.
Well, and now it's interesting because I'm retasting those, and I would probably flip flop those because I had whiskey number 5 as my number 3 and number 4 as my number 2. Retasting them, I probably flip flop those. So I would say whiskey 5 was my number 2 as well, just because.
Yeah.
On retasting number 4, there wasn't a lot up front. It was a good finish, but then it was just kind of like up front. Whereas number 5, the flavor profile up front was a lot better, mouthfeel, whatever you want to call it. Like it felt better, got a lot more flavor out of the initial taste of it than number 4. So yeah, I'm changing my mind already.
I'm down to 5 and 6 too, and I just retasted them, and I kind of agree with you, John. I think they're both good. It's just today, right now, I'm putting 5 as my number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Who does number 2 work for it? Favorite bourbon, number 1 of these 6. I'll go first. I'm going whiskey number 6. That was my favorite. It just had a really great forward heat to it that wasn't, I think, out of balance. It stuck around for me the longest. I've actually had it the least amount because I didn't have to keep coming back to it. It was got it.
Oh, it was like
stuck around for a really long time.
First sip,
right there. This is my favorite. Number 6. Cheers.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was number 1.
Number 1.
Apparently.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Great.
Allegedly.
By process of elimination.
Yeah.
Brian and I, we very similar.
Good news, I've forgotten what order I put these in.
Yeah, we have no idea what any of these are. So
I'm in a little bit of an advantage because I know what they are.
You know what they are, right?
But I don't remember the order that I put them in because I was pulling them out of the bag randomly, as Justin can tell you, and I would even forget to write the number on it. Go, oh shit, I got to go back and put the number on it. So, yeah. So,
well, I bet what we can do, we can probably pull out the bottles and
Yeah.
at least see what we did and maybe even compare the colors.
yeah, let me.
Yeah, we
get
can
down
at
to
least
that.
see what we.
I'm gonna
So
take these off for a
let's
second.
pause for commercial break. And we'll come
perfect.
back and do that. So we're back, and here comes the big reveal.
The reveal.
So what do we got? I'm gonna write these down. The six bourbons you brought with you today.
These are the 6 bourbons that I brought with me today.
Mm-hmm.
They're in no particular order.
Okay.
Blanton's.
Mm-hmm.
Benchmark, number 8.
Okay.
Old Bardstown, 90 proof. That's the tan label, if you're
Yep.
a color person. 4 Roses, small batch select.
Okay.
One of, and this is, I guess this could be considered another rare bourbon, but it's it's the joint maker's mark that Shelby and I put together. We call it our best blend.
Okay.
And and Yellowstone. Yellowstone, the 93 proof.
Okay.
Oh.
And I'm not going to be able to do this
No,
shit.
the Yellowstone, I can. That's always minty. That's got a lot of mint to it, if I recall. Last time we tried it. Okay.
Are you
so,
sure?
So we're gonna try and guess which one's which. No, I'm not sure at all. So which one is my favorite?
You said 6.
6 is my favorite, but I'm trying to think of all these that would be the best one. I have never had the Benchmark 8 or the Old Bardstown. I've had the other ones. Well, I haven't had your Maker's Our Best Blend.
So I haven't had Yellowstone.
Benchmark
the
is
the Benchmark or the Old Bar. I've only had
Benchmark is not cast strength. It's let me see if I can grab the bottle.
I've only had the
tell
4
you the
Roses
proof.
and Blanton's. And Blanton's is a true single barrel, so they're all going to taste different.
That's true. Yeah.
So the one that I have on my shelf is going to be different from this one.
Might get some knockage.
Here we go. We got it.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
You're good.
Benchmark is 80 proof.
And that's one that everyone has been raving about recently.
Really?
That's what I've seen on the Facebooks.
On the book face?
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't know.
Well, that's
deleted
that's
that
what they all
app
say.
about 7 or 8 years
You
ago.
are
It's a
a
good
lucky
call.
man. You're a lucky man.
It's like the best poop ever.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put. I don't know if I can figure out what each one is. That's going to be pretty tough to do, but I do think I could. Let's figure out like the least favorite and the most favorite. I'm thinking least favorite is Blanton's because I don't like Blanton's, and every time I have,
I don't think so because
incredibly
I mean,
underwhelming.
Granted, I have like the bottle that I have on my shelf, and I only have one,
And you're a fan,
and it's good.
I thought I saw 3.
I enjoy. So there's one regular Blanton's, and there's one straight from the barrel.
Oh, okay.
So those are 2 different things.
Okay.
And that's all I got.
Gotcha.
That's it. There's none hiding in a bunker anywhere.
And it's
or
not
anything
your
like that.
you're not your favorite.
Uh,
In fact,
I mean,
yeah.
I enjoy Blanton's. Like it's good, but like
I don't
there's-
buy into the hype.
There's plenty of
you're
other
not going to
things.
kick it out of bed for eating crackers, but
There are plenty of other
Sure.
things that are just as good, if
Let me
not
put-
better, that
I'll
are
give you-
easily accessible.
Here's
and I think that's the whole point of all of this.
that's the entire point of this.
That's
Yeah.
the point of all of
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I just had Blanton's the other day, but I did it because we were celebrating on closing on our condo. And
Congratulations.
had some friends, or the selling of it anyway. So I had some friends come over, and I celebrated by giving them one of those, a shot of it. But it was strictly because they like, I know you guys think this is a really fancy bourbon, so we're gonna do
Right.
this as like a celebration.
Right.
For me, I was like, I just want to open it and be done with opening it.
Yeah, because you still hadn't opened it.
Oh,
yet.
I know. It's just
Well,
because
you got to have something in the collection for the noobs, right?
there it is, and so we gave that to them. So I'm actually going with 2, and I'm going with my favorite one. I think it's either the makers, or I'm going Four Roses Small Batch Select.
I think number 5 is the small batch select.
Yep, I think that's a good guess, and that's why. So I'm going to say makers is 6.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay,
so here comes.
I don't have anything
I
on the
think-
other ones because I've only
Here
had
comes
2
the
of them.
reveal.
then that's good.
As you pull them out, I'm going to drink them,
Okay.
just to test it again.
Oh, here we go. Well, that's all right.
Be like, yes, that is correct. That is in fact Yellowstone, or whatever.
I thought I wrote. Oh, I did.
Bardstown.
Number 1, Old Bardstown.
Old Bardstown.
Look at
Okay.
that. See, I like Bardstown.
It's $25.
It was good.
Never had it.
For $25.
Yep. Oh wow, that's a loud table.
Cheers, Old Bardstown.
Cheers, Old Bardstown.
Okay. All right.
Number 2, Benchmark.
The Benchmark. Oh, that was my least favorite.
No, we did not like that. So this is the one that Pat was talking about, wasn't it?
Well, but correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. There are like 6 different versions of this, right?
This is the Benchmark.
Yeah, this is Buffalo Trace. Yeah,
This
this
is
is.
Buffalo Trace. That's the same mash bill as Blanton's.
Yeah,
That's why I put it in, was because it was the what mash bill number 2, is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's the same mash bill, just not Blanton's.
Younger.
So yeah, a lot younger.
But what I mean is, though, there are benchmarks of different proofs as well. I think I saw a 110, a 100, a 120, like a bottle and bond version of that. Correct?
I have not seen those. Not
So
retail.
I think Pat,
No, I don't know if they're for retail. They may be for sale retail, but like in Kentucky.
because I think Pat was talking about that
Oh,
because
gotcha.
it's the same mash bill as Stagg Jr. too,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Really?
which then by
Okay,
George
all
T.
right.
Stagg.
Blanton's number 3.
Okay. All right. That was my 3rd ranked.
And this is 93 proof Blanton's.
God, this was just dumped too. 12021.
I mean, that
Yeah.
had a good color to it. That was actually my 3rd favorite color.
That's our most recent batch, so that we got.
That was also my 3rd favorite color.
3rd favorite color, and first, that was my most aromatic.
God, if it was
In my
only one
opinion.
more day, would have been dumped on my 40th birthday.
Ah,
God, you're old.
Not quite.
Yellowstone
Shut up.
number 4.
Is number 4. Okay. So
All right,
I said
okay.
Oki. I not a big fan of that one.
Yeah, I like this one. So I've seen the like the limited edition, like the 2019 and the
Right.
2020 in the
Right.
store. Did not pull the trigger on it because I was like, I don't really want to spend $100 and then hate it.
I think the cheapest version will give you a good indication of what the more expensive marks are going to be like. And that guy was just in, Stephen Beam. I honestly, I don't know the story of it, right? I don't know what part of the Beam family he's related to, but 7 generations.
Oh yeah, there he is right there.
Yeah.
Well, I think
He came in and he signed every single bottle we've
Yeah,
got.
look at that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Like
That's really cool.
every
though.
bottle.
His actual signature.
It's really
right
cool
there.
considering we had like 30 cases.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez.
That's a lot.
Well,
of signing.
maybe I was saying oak, but now that I'm like rethinking it, maybe it is mint. Also, I'm tasting
Yeah,
in there.
could be. It could be that green oak, right? Green tannin, things like that. Number 5, small batch select.
We guessed correct.
Got it.
We got the last.
Yeah.
two.
Got it right. Yep.
All right, small batch select.
Yep.
And
Which
number
is
6.
my favorite Four Roses.
Number 6 was the our best blend, the one that Shelby and I worked on together. I felt a little bit bad about doing one that was a store pick, but because, but
It's good to know though. Like, and there are a lot of people
Yeah.
naysayers out there that say like, "Oh, store picks are nonsense, and it's just a marketing ploy or whatever." And listen, there are
and I liked that more than that.
right, and there are
Yeah.
mass
Yeah.
retailers that just pick up barrels, so we don't even care. We're not going to taste it. But I think that when you go
Right.
to certain places and this is what they do. I can taste the difference
So-
blindly as well. Just saying.
I'm sorry I didn't bring all of our exact pricing with us today, but I'll say this. Because of the craziness around Blanton's, we've raised the price. I mean, it's supply and demand. That's Econ 101.
Yep.
Right.
I've been told that I'm gouging people and things like that. This is not gas in a hurricane. This is bourbon and
Or in a pandemic.
yeah. Exactly. So we charge $100 for Blanton's, and there is no end to the customers that will buy that all day long. I could put all the Blanton's out tomorrow and it would be gone.
It'd be gone. Yep. For sure.
And so that's $100. $25, $13. Hence the we dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah, okay.
This is where is that? 43 bucks, I think, for the Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I think we're about
that's
60.
That's 60. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is 70 for that. So
Yeah, I mean,
again, and it's not to say that Bland's is bad. It's just to say that there are other bourbons out there that are worthy
you
of your
might like
consideration.
more.
Yeah, that you might appreciate more, right? Trust your own palate, and you never know what can happen. So
yeah, and as a business and marketing teacher, I will say, like, listen, besides the power of supply and demand, branding is a real thing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you can charge X amount of dollars for Rolex versus a Timex, if that even exists anymore. But you get what I'm saying.
Right,
And
yeah.
while, yes, it is a superior quality, is it 100 times better? Does it tell time 100
Sure.
times better? It's the same thing with bourbon. And listen, some are very great and they're amazing, but it's okay to maybe listen. It's cool to have these bottles on your shelf, but also it's worth maybe the conversation of get one, but also try some other stuff that
Sure.
maybe there isn't a bunch of hype and there's a lot sitting on the shelf because you might be surprised at how freaking amazing some of this stuff is.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. We've talked about blends in general. It's a great looking bottle. It's just a cool looking bottle. Like I said, you want one on your shelf, but do you need a whole pool table full of them?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there you have it.
That's the results.
Compared to the rare,
Yeah.
Brian,
The rare did not
we
win.
are excited to do it again on Wednesday at Dogwood.
Yes, we
Excellent.
are.
I'm very excited about that. It's going to be a loud event. There are
Raucous.
46 or 48 people.
That's
signed
awesome.
up. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy event. But thank you for tasting out of plastic cups. I did that whole test where I poured a foolproof bourbon in there and let it sit for like 3 hours just to make sure.
Still didn't lose anything.
Didn't lose anything.
At least it wasn't the paper cups. The
Yeah.
paper cup would have disintegrated at that point.
Yeah, it would have.
But thank you for having me. I'm very excited to come back. Even if we're not drinking, I think we can geek out on some other stuff.
Definitely.
I will. I can school you on Tootsie.
I'll bring my wife. She can school you on Mr. Mom.
Oh, here we go.
Battle Royale.
Now
Bring
it's a
it.
showdown.
All right. Well, before we go
if
there,
anybody wants to go head to head with my wife on Little House on the Prairie, good luck.
all I know is Michael Landon was in that. That's about all I got.
That's all I got. Yeah.
He was.
Give us a real quick plug for all of your evening events, your evites, and things you guys do at Dogwood. They're really pretty cool.
It's cool. I really just encourage people to come into the store and check it out. Listen, we're in a growth zone right now. We're trying to recover from this whole pandemic thing, and yeah, there are going to be tastings involved. And if you're comfortable having your mask off around other people, we're happy to taste with you. Our staff is vaccinated.
You got a new tasting room that you just built?
We call it affectionately the baller room, because if you're going to be a baller, you're going to go in that room.
I've certainly brought some baller stuff in there.
Absolutely, you have. And that is where we like to go and hang out and taste some stuff. But honestly, we just appreciate anybody stopping by the store, reaching out to us. And listen, if you don't see what you want, just ask. We'll order it in for you, and usually it's going to be a better price. I hear this about the wine all the time. And the store before I got there had a massive wine selection, which is great when you can hold big tastings and everything else. And when you can't do that, like with anything, if you taste it, you'll buy it, right? Or people will be more apt to buy it. Mm-hmm. We're going to start tastings back up again, but we can't do those big tastings yet. We're kind of waiting. We're hoping to do an outdoor event at summertime. But listen, we've got a good staff. We've got a good vision, and we're really looking forward to the future about trying to educate the consumer, educate everyone on just how to trust themselves and enjoy what is out there, because there's a lot out there right now, right? I mean, I do my best to taste everything. My liver regrets it, but for the most part, I'm doing my best to try everything that's out there. And so if anybody has any questions, if I haven't tried it, I will not lie to you about that. I'll just say, no, I haven't tasted it, but maybe there's somebody else in the store that has. But if I don't know the answer to a question, I will lie to make that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a good salesperson.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
well,
right.
seriously, thanks for coming in today and
thank you guys.
giving us all your knowledge. This has been amazing. Definitely check out Dogwood Spirits.
Yeah, Dogwood.
And if you are in the mood after buying some bottles, head over to Dogwood Social House.
I was going to say,
throw some axes, booze and axe throwing.
Booze and axe throwing. The new location in O'Fallon. The new social house.
New social house is opening in July.
In O'Fallon, next to the O'Fallon location. So they'll have kind of the same setup they have in Ellisville, where you have the liquor store and...
Yep, only a bigger social house, and it's in the old Gold's Gym.
Oh, the bigger one in O'Fallon.
It'll be a bigger social house.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if it's taking over a Gold Gym, it's going to be pretty big.
Yeah.
Yes, it will. So, as always, if you want to check us out, you can always hit up our socials. We're available on all the platforms for podcasting, and we're also going to be available on YouTube now. So
yes. Cool.
Check this out live. Not live, but video.
Video.
Live is not the right word.
Yeah, not live.
And our next episode, I think, would be really fun. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do one of these Compare to the Rares, but we're going to do it with some of our friends who think they are super fancy and sophisticated bourbon aficionados. What do you think about that?
Who are we going to test? Oh, I know. I know who we're going to test.
Maybe the guy behind the scenes over there, maybe a couple other friends of ours as well.
Yeah, we definitely have access to plenty of things.
Always happy to help on my end too.
Awesome.
So, from a non-promotional standpoint, this is fun for me.
Yeah, we love it.
It's fun for us. That's why we do this.
Right. Get a chance to hang out, drink, and eat, and look silly.
Yep.
And act smart. So thanks again to Brian. Thanks again to our man, Justin, for doing all the hard work behind the scenes. And until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Nerd Bites.
Thank y'all.